Hey, supply chainers, wherever you are in the world, this is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, and now also the Blended Pledge. And I'm super excited to be here with you today. We've got a really great guest. We're going to be talking all about AI and drones and how UPS kind of just dropped Amazon. But before we do that, let me tell you about our sponsor, because we could not do this without our sponsors. We've just heard from Fastenal, and now Emerge is proud to partner with Thoughts and Coffee to elevate our combined focus on empowering and growing meaningful relationships in the freight industry. The first and only freight-specific RFP platform, Emerge is reinventing freight procurement by offering solutions that enhance the spot and contract procurement process, enabling shippers to make the most strategic decisions possible, saving invaluable time and enhancing productivity. Learn more at emergemarket.com/thoughts and coffee. All right, let's get to what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain right now. So we've got a brand new episode. So wherever you subscribe to Let's Talk Supply Chain, plus we've also got it over on letstalksupplychain.com and over on the Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube page. It's episode 281 with Eric from Orderful. I met them at, I think it was Manifest back in January, and we got to talking all about what they're doing and how they are shaking up the logistics and supply chain industry. And in this episode, we got down to how they're helping their customers, what you need to know about EDI software, trading EDI data, and how they're also helping small business get to the market. So go and check that out. Highly recommend that. And would love to hear your feedback too. We want to hear from you as well. What we've got going on. So congratulations to Lorena Camargo, our follower of the month for July. Remember, if you want to be a follower of the month and get one of our Let's Talk Supply Chain mugs, this one says, I like to move it. That's the one that Lorena picked. And I think it's on its way to her now. And we're going to be seeing some photos soon. So if you want to be the follower of the month, all you have to do is engage with us and throughout the month, engage with all of our posts throughout the month, and you could be our next follower of the month. All right, so I wanted to talk to you guys about our upcoming events. So I don't know if you know this, but across the top here, you can always click on events on our Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. And this is going to come up with all of our LinkedIn live events that are coming up. So today at noon, Mercado, Robert Garrison of Mercado, he is going live with First Things First, and supply is more than meets the eye. And then on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I don't know if you guys know this, but we're doing an intermodal day 1 on Thursday, and then we're doing an intermodal day 2 next Thursday with Ayanna, and we're going to be talking all about what you need to know in intermodal right now. There's a lot going on because there's a lot happening in the government and all sorts of different things that you need to know for your supply chains here in North America. And then lastly, on Friday, we've got DC Shvergola with action items. She's got another episode coming up on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to go to our events page, it's really easy. You just click on events here and see what is happening. What else do we have going on? Oh, I was on BBC yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught it, but I was on BBC World yesterday morning. It was about 1:45 in the morning, my time, which was 5:45 their time. And we talked about supply chain disruptions. I talked about how Hershey might not have Halloween candy for this year because they are prioritizing their manufacturing, and talked a little bit about how companies can get through some of the disruptions that are happening. But enough about that. Let's get our guest up here on stage because I cannot wait for you to meet her. Let's bring her up. Hello, Melissa. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee.
Hello there. Hey, congratulations and shout out to Lorena. That's awesome.
Yeah, right? I know. I mean, who doesn't want one of these Let's Talk Supply Chain mugs?
Mine's just pretty
I know.
clear.
I
Yeah.
gotta send you one. I gotta send you one. All right. So why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do and everything about you?
Oh gosh, everything about me in two sentences. I am 28 years of experience in procurement and supply chain, both industry and consulting. And I'm a keynote speaker, I'm a mentor, I'm a board member. And really at the moment, I focus on how AI can impact our procurement and supply chain applications, processes, culture, talent. Yeah, everything.
I love that. And we're talking more about AI. Like on almost every single conversation that I have, I had a conversation with a company yesterday who is really leading the charge on what they've developed,
Hmm.
excuse me, in AI, and looking to potentially work with them to get what they're doing out on the market because it's so unique. They don't even really even have any competitors yet.
Oh,
So it's
brilliant.
really, really kind of crazy how AI is really changing the industry. Have you found that like over the last couple of years, adoption has kind of, fast tracked people that want to know more about it. They want to utilize it within their supply chains.
Yeah, I think there's some companies who had been using it all along and they just never knew that that was a differentiator or that it was going to be so popular. There are companies out there and their supply chain applications don't have any of this technology and it's still taking them a while to adjust. And then
Yeah.
you've got the startups. These startups that they're out there, they're able to move more quickly and get through the red tape. And they're the ones that are solving those business challenges. So
Yep.
it's going to be interesting to see how the evolution in the ecosystem between the enterprise and the startups, come together.
Absolutely. Now I'm just checking over on my personal LinkedIn. I'm going to give some shout outs in just a second. We've got a lot of people with us today. Super excited to have you here with us. Now we're going to be talking about our poll of the week. So, the question that we asked you, what's the best purchase you've ever made for $100 or less? Now, some people do question us on some of these polls because they're like, what does that have to do with supply chain? Now, we did a survey of our community and they were like, you guys talk about supply chain a lot. So we want to have some fun with you in some of our polls. So I just want to put that out there because we get people messaging us all the time about our polls. And we want to have some fun with you. So that's where some of these questions come from. And this one was a fun one. 48% of you said food. 27% of you said tickets, 19% of you said house decor, and then 6% of you said other. And there's some fun comments in there that I'm going to go through right now. But Melissa, when you saw this poll, I'm sure you had to sort of think about the best purchase you've ever made for $100. I mean, for me, I probably had to go back a couple of years because I don't know what you can get for under $100 these days.
No, I found the response 48% for food to be the most interesting because food is something that's disposable. You eat it, it's gone. So
Yeah, that's
I
very
thought
true.
before you threw up the results that it was going to be some tangible item that
Yeah.
you could have repeatable, you know, access to and get to use it over and over again, like a vacuum cleaner. I don't know. That was a really bad example, but
No, but it's so true. And then some of the comments that we have here. Boris said LinkedIn premium monthly subscribe. I mean, shout out to LinkedIn. That is a good one. And then Greg said, I think advanced tickets to Eagles Hell Freezes Over
mm,
reunion tour. He got 2 tickets for $89. And Joshua Breeze says content light, which I can totally relate to because that's one of the challenges I even still had with BBC last morning. Jamie said personal development, of course. Tom
interesting.
said marriage license, which is
Uh,
so nice, right? Michael said his dog. Tony said a boot dryer. I'm not even sure what exactly that is.
hmm.
But some of those answers were quite interesting. I'm actually going to see Alicia Keys on Sunday.
Oh, it dries your boots.
Well, yeah, okay, I get that, but I have
Oh,
no concept of, like, what it would look like or, like, is it a hair dryer
no, it
or
sits
like
on the ground. You put your boot in it.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I
Yeah.
probably need one of those for my baseball stuff. Last week I played in the rain and I had it, like, all over the house trying to dry, and then I had to wash the mud off it anyways.
That would work.
TMI for that. But yeah, no, I'm going to see Alicia Keys on Sunday, and I got those tickets for $25 each.
No,
And I've never seen her in concert, so I'm super, super excited about that.
that's exciting.
Yeah, I know. So that's probably one of my best. And now I wanted to talk about this article too, because I think this is really, really, really funny. So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Jeff Bezos' unfinished mega yacht was towed away after bridge drama and threats of egging. Now, you wonder what this has to do with supply chain. Well, this is all about logistics, right? Moving the boat to where it needs to go. It can't fit under a bridge, so it gets towed back to where it was going. There's all sorts of carbon footprint here. There's all sorts of things that are happening. Now, when I show you the picture of the bridge that it couldn't get through, you're
Yes.
kind of going to be like, how big is this thing that it could not? And then they asked to dismantle the bridge, which is even crazier. So, Melissa, when you saw this, what did you think?
I, I did the same thing. I scrolled through and I'm like, well, gosh, maybe it's just a normal bridge. But as you scroll down and look at the
This
bridge,
one.
it's pretty tall. Like, how tall is, like, they couldn't fold the mast down? Like, poor planning. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of logistics here.
Yeah.
But I thought what was more fun was that the residents were planning to egg the ship, and if the city decided that it was even thinking about dismantling this bridge.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And then when we were talking with AJ a little bit earlier, he was like, was it 2 days shipping back to the towing yard when they towed it back to the yard?
Oh, there is a comment, and I thought this was funny. There was a quote from a resident who witnessed this, who said, "We never saw transport going that fast. It took less than 3 hours for the ship to travel that distance, and it normally requires twice as much time to reverse that same distance." Kind of makes you wonder a little bit there as well.
Well, talk about staying on brand. Right? Like, Amazon's, like, free delivery and super quick turnaround, and they're, like, creating chaos for all the e-commerce shippers because they do it so quickly. I mean, talk about staying on brand with your
Oh,
mega yacht. I mean, it's very important, people. Very, very important. Anyways, I just wanted to share that one because I thought that was really funny. All right,
it is funny.
back to seriousness and actually getting into more supply chain topics. We are talking about drones. And actually, somebody made a comment about drones, which I will put on the screen in just a minute. But this article is from Amazon talking about Amazon Prime Air and how they're preparing for drone deliveries. Now, when I read this article, I didn't realize that we've been working on drones for over a decade to make it a
Hmm.
reality. That number was quite surprising to me because I didn't think we'd been working on it for that long. And then it also goes into a little bit more about the challenges around drone deliveries. So trying to scale it, the safety of it. So not only flying around, but also coming to the ground to deliver the
Hmm.
product. Doing it quickly and then obviously cost effective, right? Because we can't adopt something that's not everybody's going to pay $75 to get a delivery by drone. And they're probably not going to do that with every single product that they buy on Amazon. So,
Mm-mm.
what did you think about this, Melissa? Talk to us a little bit about drone deliveries. I mean, this does have an AI component because there's a lot of sensors and different things that it needs to have to actually operate.
Yeah, so the reason why it's taken so long is, in order to get that level of technology down to that size, that's what's been this 10-year process. So
Right.
now with low coding, we've shifted from machine learning to deep learning. We're able, and then the visual computer vision of having all the cameras or surrounding the drone. All of that had to come to this perfect storm in order to get where we are today. And I have been following this because I've been really interested in what Amazon was going to do to really bring this to the public.
Hmm.
They were going to have to find someone who was going to license this. They had to find a city that was going to be willing to potentially put themselves at risk. So
Right.
that was one of the bigger obstacles. Um, I would say the other piece is, it's Lockford, California, which is the city that finally decided that
Yep.
they would partner. But you were right. It's not only eligibility. I mean, look at the drone. You're not going to get a TV delivered this way. You're not going to
No.
get anything that's breakable. Um, but the individual has to sign up. that they want to be able to receive the deliveries. Then there's an assessment of their backyard to not only make sure it's big enough, but also has no obstacles or constraints. In other words, this drone's not going to navigate, 5 or 6 pine trees and then drop it into your backyard.
Right.
So it's exactly what it says. It's a very early stage pilot.
Well, and those pictures that I just showed were
Hmm.
pictures of the prototypes that they have been working on. And so this particular article, go and check it out because they're showing you exactly what it means for you. It's showing you their process, it's showing you the different prototypes that they're working on. What I thought was really interesting was the pilot happening in California. They
Hmm.
talked about how the community plays a huge role. So, like you said, one of the obstacles was finding a community that would work with them on this project. And you're kind of thinking, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, what it has to do with is feedback. So they need feedback. They also need areas to be able to land, right?
Hmm.
Like you said, and so they have to work with them. But what they're also creating in that community is new jobs, partners with local businesses, and then they're reducing carbon footprint as well. So they're measuring all four of these things by doing this pilot program within California. The
Hmm.
other thing that they talked about was creating the software around sense and avoid. Because, like you said, with pine trees and things like that within backyards, they need to be able to sense and avoid not only when it's flying in the air,
Hmm.
but also when it goes to land and things like that. And so I think it's a really interesting article that shows what goes into drones. Like we talk about it all the time. We talk about
Hmm.
it sort of being that far-fetched idea, but no, it's coming. And what does it mean for us? And how can we adopt it? And so it goes through exactly the process of how they're thinking about it, but it also gives you an idea of what it would take a company to really adopt this kind of delivery system. And so create some empathy, right? Because this isn't going to work for all companies or organizations, and
Hmm.
it's going to take a while for adoption, especially until the cost comes down.
And in this case, I think first to market is going to have some advantages. There's going to be I mean, you also have to think of three frequencies. So, for example, planes can't fly any lower than 500 feet. And,
Right.
FCC, which in the US is the frequency, there's a bottom and, a ceiling. And that drone has to be within that specific area so that it's not being disrupted with other radar, radio signals like,
Yeah.
Motorola, walkie-talkies or whatever they're called. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've said this before. I mean, the cameras on those things,
Hmm.
there's some privacy issues around people in their backyard and things like that. Just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, our next article is from the Lodestar, and it talks about how UPS is cutting Amazon. Not completely, but they're cutting some of their volumes. And it's because of their new mantra, which is better, not bigger. And so, since they've cut the Amazon volumes, they're actually seeing a drop of 222,000 parcels a day.
Mm.
And they're saying that the Amazon revenue will be 11% of their total volume, which I don't know what the number was previous to this, but they're looking to keep it at 11% because what they want to do is they want to focus on growing the SMB market for themselves, the B2B market, the healthcare market. And they are talking in this article about taking their power back. Like, think about that statement. We just talked about the mega yacht and how they wanted to dismantle a bridge. We're talking about what they're doing in drone deliveries. And now we're talking about how they've gotten to a place where companies are like, I need to take my power back from Amazon. So, Melissa, what did you think about this?
I found this to be a very interesting messaging, a
Mhm.
perspective of what's going on.
Yeah.
I have a family member that's in the post office, and they're also renegotiating contracts. But the feedback there is really more. It's realistic. It's Amazon has much more trucks, and they don't need the post office to deliver everything. But what I found most interesting about this article was the reference to the last mile,
Mhm.
because no matter what, the post office is the one that's getting to the last mile.
Right.
So it was interesting to see that, and then also the messaging about UPS going to give some of the value back to their customers, which is kind of an interesting perspective. What value are they giving back to the customers that's very tactical in delivering the package from point A to point B within a specific time frame?
Yeah, and you bring up a good point because they're referring to the value being in the service that they're providing.
Hmm.
And so it was also interesting in that article that they're talking about discounting less. I don't know how well that's going to go over, especially with large volume shippers,
Hmm.
because that's something that they're used to, right? And if their competitors are doing that, what does that look like? And will service kind of win out on that? They're also talking about focusing on upstream, which is
Yes.
really interesting. And they talk about what they consider being upstream. And what they consider being upstream is order management. Now, order management, if you've been in logistics, it's something that we've been talking about, I don't know, for like 15 years or something like that. Like, as a logistics company, when I worked at ours, we had PO management systems and things like that. Like this has been going on for a while. So it's not really anything new. I guess it depends on what they're going to throw at it as far as technology and what they're going to offer their customers to make up that difference of how they're going to help them manage their orders. And then the other one they talked about was virtual holds. So they're going to hold deliveries until they get another delivery in their system to the same address.
Mm.
Now, some of the questions that came up within that article is, well, what about the SLAs and what about, the promises to the customers and things like that. They're talking about having a third party software where they can input some of those rules and regulations and be able to deliver those packages within the SLAs and what exactly they need to deliver for. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. We'll have to see how that kind of works because even if there's one slip up and the customer doesn't get it when they need to get it and it's, under an SLA and there's a penalty, well, who's
Hmm.
going to pay for that and what does that look like as they sort of try some of these new concepts? But good on them to be able to do that.
Yeah, I thought overall, if I was looking at the article, it caused more questions than it answered. Yeah.
A girl after my own heart because I
Yeah.
always I we talk about these articles and I definitely don't have all the answers and I think I come up with more questions as we talk through the article
Yeah.
than
This one
I
in
do
particular.
after reading it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right,
This one in
let's get
particular.
to the next one, which is AI, which is totally your area. Now, this article in Forbes has a whole bunch of stats when it comes to technology in supply chain. Really, really cool stats. So, a couple of them: 1 in 5 companies have seen technology deliver positive results in supply chain. That is really low considering everybody is talking about technology right now. They're saying 25% in cloud, 20% in IoT, 18% in scan and intelligent data. But it looks like AI is coming out on top. So improving logistics costs by 15%, inventory by 35%, and service levels by 65%. Now, those are really, really huge numbers. So talk to us about this, Melissa. Talk to us about like AI, the adoption of it. I think we've seen an increase of that, obviously, through the pandemic. What does it mean for supply chains?
I would be interested to read the study and understand how many people they questioned and were these
244.
really large companies versus say,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. But overall, when I look at the market globally, because what you're in Canada, I'm in the US, we've got folks in Europe, et cetera. The adoption of AI is actually much higher in Europe than it is here in the US in supply chain.
I've heard
And
that.
and yes, supply chain in most particularly around the use of looking at what you've ordered, the utilization of what we said earlier, the neural networks and the deep learning, taking real-time data, supply chain data, weather data, issues that are occurring, pull it together and come back and say, hey, this order, even though your supplier says it's going to be on time, is
Yeah.
actually going to be delayed by X, Y, and Z because this is going on and your supplier probably doesn't know it yet. And then it takes all of your other information and all the other suppliers you have, and it comes back with real-time recommendations and alternative options. That's the area where I'm seeing the most focus around AI in supply chain.
Yeah, really that future proofing element,
Hmm.
right? I think a lot of what we've been talking about, I also have a mini series coming out in September with Sifted, and they talk a lot about simulation. right? So testing different scenarios, simulation, bringing in different scenarios and what that impact actually means, not only to maybe just supply chain, but also the business units in general. Because at the end of the day, previously we've looked at business units separately, right? Supply chain,
Hmm.
marketing, customer experience, all of that. But now I think AI is really bringing a collaborative effort in showing them, if you do a simulation around this, how does it affect not only your supply chain teams, but also the rest of the business units as well?
Hmm. Yeah. And I think McKinsey's study in that article mentioned inventory. So if you're looking at the
Yeah.
second, you take your optimization scenarios that you mentioned and you apply it to the inventory. We already have smart factories that are out there. They've been out there for over 5 years. And that's where you have this little robot that's putting the product on on the racks. And then, in a cross dock situation, taking the inventory and moving it over to the other side. That was the easy one. So it's all this other areas that we're now trying to apply that technology, which is the other areas of logistics that we're talking about.
Yeah, one of the other ones that they mentioned was predicting supplier risk, which I think is huge because I think one of the numbers within this article said 27% of the 244 executives surveyed said
Hmm.
that is one of the biggest things on their mind. Like they're not sleeping at night because of supplier
Yeah.
risk, and then just understanding risk in general. I mean, the last couple of years have shown us what our risk points are, what we're willing to spend on our risk dollars, like where are
Hmm.
we willing to spend those dollars. But the other really interesting point here is that they said end to end AI projects pre pandemic were taking 18 months. And now they're saying you cannot have these projects take more than 30 days. Now, what does that mean for you in the audience? It means a couple of different things. One,
Yeah.
if you're a tech company that has AI and your implementation takes over 30 days, you're being challenged within this article.
Mm.
Two, in the audience, if you're looking to take on an AI project, those are the parameters that you should be talking to your partner about when you're looking to take on a new AI project. So, what did you think about that? I mean, maybe that is because they interviewed a guy that has an AI product and he's like, I can do it within 30 days. So,
No, I actually have just two quick points. One of them going back to your comment around risk.
yeah.
So, for example, if you look at technology today and you want to understand the risk of your supplier, we can tell you through GIS technology exactly where your supplier is and how close it is to the water. But what technology couldn't tell you until AI got involved is what was the altitude of that supplier.
Mm,
So early on, the technology was giving you unknown risk factors and really skewing the risk factors of the supplier, thinking that everything was two-dimensional and flat.
right.
Now we have this better AI and computer visioning telling you that your risk for that supplier is really not all that big because it's 500 feet above, the floodplain.
Right.
So that's a benefit. But then I I was quite surprised by that comment. End-to-end projects can't take more than 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some companies are pushing those cycles down. In the article, it says even by 2 to 3 more weeks, which means that you're supposed to go through an entire AR project in 2 weeks. At the moment, it's not the AI technology and the suppliers, it's the companies. There are
Mm.
so many decisions that happen before the project starts, and there's so many decisions that happen during the project that it'll be the company that holds up a project like this, not the technology and not the supplier.
And they're challenging you not to do that. Well, thank you so much for that,
Mhm.
Melissa. Now, I just want to share with everybody where I'm going to be coming up in person. So, I'm going to be at the Imagine conference. I'm going to be hosting the digital portion of the Imagine conference. This is put on by Laura Ciceri and Supply Chain Insights in Washington, September 6th through 8th. And then I'm also going to be at Home Delivery World and I'm going to be recording podcasts on site. Plus, I'm going to be on stage as well. That is happening August 31st 1st to September 1st over in Philadelphia. And then, of course, we've got Manifest in January, and we've got Engage with Procurement Foundry happening in Las Vegas the first week of November. So hopefully I'm going to be able to meet some of you in person. Make sure if you're at any of these conferences, come up and say hi. Would love to meet you. Would love to say hi. And Melissa, any final thoughts before we go?
Oh gosh, no, this was fun. Thanks. And I will get to meet you in person for the first time at Procurement Foundry.
Yes, that's going to be amazing. And we
Yeah.
should probably let everybody know you're also on the board for the Blended Pledge as well. And we appreciate everything that you are doing for the pledge, because we are going to make a huge announcement here very, very, very shortly, because we might have our first, applicant maybe. But you didn't hear that from me because we haven't actually posted that yet. So nothing happens unless it's been posted. Anyways, Melissa, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everybody who tuned in online, and have an amazing week. We'll see you next week with Audrey Ross.